Oh, hello, it's Susie again from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I just want to address some of the misnomers or some of the information that's out there re Ripple, which really concerns me because I read a report from an analyst that actually gets paid for his subscriptions, and what he said about the cons and negatives of Ripple, which I just thought was completely incorrect. So I thought I'd just send something so that people can actually read and make a balanced decision just with my information, because honestly, the information that this fellow was saying, or this person was saying, is just not right. The first thing they said was Ripple is not decentralized. Ripple, the holding company, owns about 61% or $6 billion worth of Ripple, which means that they can release Ripple anytime to control prices, and this is enormous holding supply, and this would make the price go down unless they bought Ripple back, the token, and then they haven't made this intention. I just want to make the point that, number one, Ripple's a coin, not a token. There is a big difference. Coins have value and they can be a medium of exchange, where a token is not necessarily a medium of exchange or can be used, as a coin, if you want to call it that. Number one, and number two, actually, the company itself is not decentralized, and that's fair enough. It's just like any other company that's listed on the stock exchange and it's owned by owners and, private investors and the like. But the technology of Ripple is decentralized. So again, Ripple uses a distributed ledger system for their technology, which enables them to basically provide technology to the banks for doing settlements instantaneously. Now, that doesn't change. That's just unheard of. The banks at this present stage cannot do settlements, whether it be foreign currency payments, foreign currency cross-currency payments between different countries and different time zones. The banks don't have that technology to do settlements instantly, which will take, 1 second or something. So the reality is, and I'm talking cleared funds, not available funds or not funds that are on hold that you don't have access to. Ripple has that technology where they can do 1,500 to 1,600 transactions within seconds, where they can do foreign currency from one currency to another in settled currency, which the banks don't have that capability. Now, a bank can take 3 to 10 days for that capability. Ripple has that technology, and that technology is decentralized. The company itself may be centralized, big deal, it doesn't matter. But the technology itself is decentralized. Also, to compare Ripple to Bitcoin, it's a complete misnomer, because Bitcoin, even though it's really well known, and it's really well known by the retail element, Ripple is going to be really well known by the wholesale element. What I mean by retail and wholesale, having worked in banking all my life, wholesale transactions are huge. Retail transactions might be, maximum $5 million or $500,000. Wholesale transactions, one bank could do one deal of FX and it could be $1 billion. So this is what we're talking about. The FX market, when we talk wholesale, is a $1 trillion market. They can do anything from 4 to 6 trillion a day. A trillion is like 1,000 billion. So, 1,000 billion by 6 is a lot. So I wanted to say that, this guy is getting completely mixed up between Ripple's technology capability and whether the holding company is centralized or not. It's absolute garbology. It doesn't make any difference to the value of Ripple. And again, any other company, whether you compare it to anything on the equity side, Ripple's like a technology company. We could literally say that Ripple's a hybrid, between, and what I mean by hybrid, between a crypto and an equity company, a technology company, listed on the stock exchange. So we could even akin to compare Ripple to a Google. It's a technology company. And if you look at where Google's gone the last 10 years, literally, up, like up to nearly $1,000 a share US. Now, I'm not saying Ripple's going to get there, but I'm saying that Ripple has technology that no one else has, which is decentralized, distributed ledger system. No one else has it, and they have the capability to processing settlement transactions within seconds, cross-currency settlement transactions, which the banks have made investments in Google. They pay Google for that processing capability, which means Google as a company would be very cash flow positive. Revenues would be coming in from the banks, which is good for their stocks, if you want to call it that. Stocks are different. The ownership of the company, which is stocks, is different to the coin to the coin Ripple. Completely different completely different things. Okay, so if Ripple earns revenue, that's great for the stockholders, but the coin is different to the revenue of the company. But the coin itself is a medium of exchange, and it also has a utility function. So, again, as I said, I've made that really pretty forward in there. If you look at Google's chart, again, went up, 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 up. Google did more stock issuance than anyone. They did a buyback. They did more stock splits, more debt issuance. Over time, it hasn't even affected their stock. It's one of the highest stocks on the US market, NASDAQ, and it just keeps going up and up and up because their revenues keep going up and up. Now, the reality is, if Ripple's revenues keep going up, so will their stock price once they start listing. Again, $6 billion is not necessarily a share, and we're not talking about the coin flow, but it's not a lot of money, and the reality is $16 billion in shares may not even be available for trading when they do list. So what's available to the public to trade is not necessarily what shares are actually issued. Completely different set of circumstances. So there might be more shares that have issued, but what's actually available could be a lot less, and the rest of those shares could be sitting in escrow. No different to the coins of Ripple. What's available to trade and what has been issued are two different things. They might have 100 billion issued, but they only have 38 billion to trade with. Completely different, because the rest sit in escrow, and that's an important distinction as well. So management don't need to issue any more shares or coins because they're cashed up. They're more likely to buy back tokens coins because they're cheap. Ripple's coins are still cheap, so management, pretty much, would more likely buy them back because they have a lot of cash and they don't need to do anything else. They don't need to buy back or issue any more, coins into the market, or any more stock for that matter. The second thing the analyst said was Ripple's all about low payment fees, that their edge over the current global payment system, that's their edge. It's not in their best interest for their tokens, coins, to be worth a lot, since that would increase the cost per transaction. Bad news if you're looking for massive gains. Now, that statement is just completely incorrect, and it doesn't actually make sense. The analyst is obviously confusing, again, the value of their coins compared to their own technology, and talking about their low payment fees. Now, that doesn't make sense at all. The banks are actually the ones that are going to benefit from lower costs, not Ripple. Ripple's providing the technology to the banks, so the banks can actually reduce their massive costs when we come to settlements, and they're going to reduce their costs. So this statement I'm really confused by. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Ripple's technology enables the banks to massively cut down their overheads and costs due to immediate cross-currency settlement, like instantly. Again, before I say this, their technology allows the banks, rather than waiting for currency settlements to settle 3 to 10 days because of, overseas people, in different time zones have to actually agree to the values coming into their Nostro or their Vostro accounts, which is what the banks run. These are accounts they run at a wholesale level. Also, they may not agree with the balances, so they go back and throw to one. They may go back and throw. There might be a middle bank in between, because, say, for example, someone in the Middle East may not have an Aussie dollar account, so they have to use another bank in between to accept the Aussie dollars and then convert the Aussie dollars to the Middle Eastern currency as well. So this is why it takes time. Some banks, again, may be set up for US, but they may not be set up for Aussie dollars, so they have to use a middle bank in between. So you're actually dealing with 3 or 4 different banks, and this is why the settlement process can take 3 to 10 days. Now, this is with the technology the banks currently use. With Ripple, again, this technology is instant, and they've just done a cross-currency swap between the US and Mexico, which is the first, and it was, done at a wholesale level in volume. So, again, their technology will increase the revenues in the company of Ripple, which will add to their profit, increase their profit, which should obviously make the coin more valuable because their revenues are going up. No different to an equity stock. If the profits and the revenue of the company are going up, the share is going to be more valuable, and that will go up regardless of issuance. Again, number two, Ripple is also a currency. The banks are using Ripple as a currency. That's another reason why Ripple needs a lot of Ripple issued. There has to be a lot of coins out there because they're dealing with banks, insurance companies, big credit card providers and the like. They're dealing with SWIFT, which is a huge monopoly of 11. They actually control and do business with 11,000 banks in over 200 countries in the world. They need a lot of currency on issue because, as I said, a bank can do one transaction of FX, foreign exchange, and they can do $1 billion just like that. Now, if the banks are using Ripple as a currency, they need to have a lot of currency on issue so that, there's a lot of liquidity in that currency. And that's pretty much why they have it. And that's at a wholesale level. So, you can appreciate, Ripple is in the wholesale market, not in the retail market. As I said, wholesale transaction sizes are huge. Retail market, generally they're under, generally most of the time under $2 million. They can go up to $5 million, but most of the time they'd be $500,000 to $1 million max. Or they could even be as piddly as, $500. What you buy, most, little traders might buy 500,000 or whatever. That's the retail market. Don't forget, every time Ripple does a transaction, there is Ripple burn, so there is less Ripple. So, the big transactions, some of the Ripple issuing is actually getting burnt. Ripple are taking on, again, other monopolies. They had the capability of taking on American Express, Visa, the credit card industry. And again, that industry is trillions. We're talking trillions and trillions of dollars. So the reality is Ripple's in the wholesale transactional market. It needs huge issuance to be in that market. It's not playing in the retail market at all, which is what Bitcoin's playing in. As Satoshi said, it was peer-to-peer mechanism of exchange to be distributed. So that would be individuals, not big corporations, which is what Ripple's in. The third thing the analyst said, and I've sort of touched on this, is there are 600, 451, 446. What's that? 600 mil, 38.6. Is that right? 38 billion. Again, we're talking about them being in the wholesale market, and they need that sort of circulation to deal with the big boys. If they didn't have that sort of circulation, it wouldn't be a means of an exchange. Ripple itself will become a means of exchange in the wholesale market, and they need that sort of issuance. Now, supply doesn't make, just because something's got a high supply doesn't make the price go down. It depends on what market you're in. Now, if you're in a market where that's not considered high supply, it's considered small supply, then that's not going to make the price go down. And that's the whole fact. Ripple is in the wholesale market. Again, the wholesale market for FX, they can, generally the average volume in a day is 4 billion to 6 billion. Ripple is in that market, and that sort of supply is not large. His statement there are, that much in circulation, market cap, maximum supply, this is going to curb the growth potential. Again, that has nothing to do with growth potential. That is just the issue, the supply of the coin. Growth potentials in terms of how much are they going to get in revenue for their technology. Their revenue is worth a fortune. The banks have made investment. They're going to pay the revenue to use, Ripple's Ripple's processing capability. So the growth potential is phenomenal. It has nothing to do with the supply of coins in circulation. Again, two different things completely. What growth is different. Growth is the capacity to generate revenue for an ongoing corporation, ongoing business. If you have growth, again, you get revenue, your revenue goes up, your coins go up. It has nothing to do with supply. And again, as I said, there's a big difference between retail supply and wholesale supply. Thank you. I hope that helps.